You've hit play on the Screen Companion, an eclectic mix of film and TV recommendations. Today, we are talking Star Trek, the original series that started in 1966, starring William Shatner as Captain Kirk, perhaps my favorite captain. We also have Leonard Nimoy as Spock, DeForest Kelley as Bones, Dr. Leonard McCoy, and a lot of side characters that show up between episodes. Damn, they really didn't get much to do until the movies, did they?
Especially that first episode. I feel like Sulu and Scotty were the only two side characters that showed up besides the big three. Sulu just sat on a planet cold.
And then Walter Koenig, he didn't come in as Chekhov until the second season, so he's not in any of these episodes today.
That very fact will create a plot hole later.
Just because he wasn't on screen doesn't mean he wasn't serving aboard the ship. He just wasn't part of the bridge crew yet.
Possibly.
But let's delve right into this Kirk-centric podcast with episode 5 of the first season, The Enemy Within. As Kirk beams up from an away mission, the transporter malfunctions, splitting him into two halves, a passive, indecisive version, and an aggressive reverse. With the transporter malfunctioning, Sulu and the others still on the planet face a killer drop in temperature, while Kirk deals with a different danger, losing his command ability in the middle of a crisis. The low-T Kirk will have to muster all his strength to make a decision in time to save Sulu's party and reintegrate with his savage double before both halves die. John, how does Kirk come off this episode?
The evil version, which should have had a goatee, if you ask me. He definitely seemed like drunk and horny. His first scene, he's like, "Where's the brandy?" And then he goes to Yaman Rand's quarters and he tries to get it on with her. I like the way he played Meat Kirk. It wasn't as brutal and direct as Evil Kirk. It was more of a ramp up. Like, you didn't know there was a problem at first, and it was a slow build.
And at the same time that we're building up to his meekness, did you notice that bad Kirk, his eyeliner got thicker and thicker?
Towards the end, it was just like, oh, he is definitely wearing eyeliner. That is, I guess, because they hadn't thought of the goatee yet.
But when he first comes off the transporter pad, he doesn't have any eyeliner. So I think we should assume he put on eyeliner like he's evil goth or something. He put on foundation later to cover up the scratches on his face.
So he definitely knew his way around makeup. Like, after he gets the brandy, and he's just in his quarters, probably listening to whatever the 23rd century version of My Chemical Romance is. He's like, I gotta put on eyeliner.
I had to rewind and check. After he's attacked Yeoman Rand, and they know he's got scratches on his face, and he wants to cover it up, I had to double check that he didn't just go into somebody's random cabin. That is the captain's cabin. What's he doing with foundation in his cabin?
Uh-oh. Kirk's got a secret to tell.
The future, we're all looser. The lines blur a bit more. They blend in better.
The series as a whole, there always has to be one person on board who's just a sex hound. This show is Kirk's time to shine, so I can imagine him being prepared for any situation.
In the official report for the incident in this episode, the stereotype that Kirk is always a player, he's always a hound dog. No, it was his evil duplicate, alright? It wasn't the real Kirk. Yeah, he might make eyes at you, but only his evil duplicate will try to assault you.
Which is still in him. Yalman Rand, I feel bad for her, because it's like, oh, the captain's not the one who assaulted you, but we definitely put that part of him back into the captain.
Tell us your favorite guests and what material you'd like us to cover next by emailing thescreencompanion@gmail.com. visit the Facebook group, or leave comments on YouTube. Support the podcast by subscribing and go to Amazon for the host's second novel, Self-Recognition, a futuristic detective story, available in both print and Kindle. Thank you to everyone stateside and around the world for listening. I had thought that there was a deeper meaning to the way Kirk was split, but when they mentioned that they bring up this, basically a dog in a sweater, this alien pet from the planet, and it's been split as well, they say that the exact same thing happened to that dog, and it was split in the same manner of the docile part and the aggressive part. I don't think we are supposed to read too much into the way he got split. I guess it's just the way that malfunction occurred.
Probably. It's just a transporter.
But I kind of wish it was more about him and not that, oh, if Spock did it, the same thing would have happened.
The transporter should be, like, uncaring scientific. Apparently, it is worried about emotions when it transports people.
Except for maybe the city on the edge of forever, do you think this is Kirk at his most vulnerable in the original series?
Yes. Emotionally, yes. He likes getting in fistfights with things stronger than him, so I'm going to say emotionally, yes, this is his most vulnerable.
And this episode isn't as widely known as something like the Mirror Universe episode or City on the Edge of Forever, but I think among fans, it's up there, and I think that's because we really see a side of Kirk that, for the most part, he doesn't play weak that often.
Get the transporter room ready.
Could be, if, maybe, all guesswork so far. Just theory. Jim, why don't you give me a chance to do an autopsy and let Spock check out the transporter circuits again?
That sounds reasonable. We should double-check everything.
Aren't you forgetting something, Captain? Your men on the planet's surface. How much time do they have left?
Yes, that's right, the men. We have to take the chance bones.
Suppose it wasn't shock, Jim. Suppose death was caused by a transporter malfunction. Then you'd die. They'd die anyway. Jim, you can't risk your life on a theory.
Being split in two halves is no theory with me, Doctor. I have a human half, you see, as well as an alien half, submerged, constantly at war with each other. Personal experience, Doctor. I survive it because my intelligence wins out over both, makes them live together. Your intelligence would enable you to survive as well.
Help me. Somebody. Make the decision.
Are you relinquishing your command, Captain?
No. No, I'm not. Well, then we can't help you, Jim.
But this is the best of both worlds. You have a doppelganger and a transporter malfunction, and that trope got used plenty in the broader franchise. Where do you think it stacks up in relation to episodes like Riker getting a duplicate, and Picard and company being reduced to children in Next Generation, or the Mirror Universe in Season 2, which was also attributed to a faulty transporter?
Was it? Oh, wow. It's the original. It's the Sean Connery of transporter malfunctions.
Where do you land on the argument whether or not you're still you after being energized? Are you still you, or did you die and it's a copy that's taken your place?
In general sci-fi, I would argue that you die and a copy takes your place, but it's Star Trek and it's supposed to be better. I think they explain it as taking you apart and rearranging you over there. I'm going to give Star Trek the benefit of the doubt. It's still you.
And if they're really so versed in the sciences, that needs to be some philosophical debate that they figure out pretty early on when they're using the transporter. But after the mishap in this episode, the dozens of mishaps in the other shows, no wonder Bones doesn't want to use the transporter half the time.
The first movie, they were doing basic maintenance, and they tried to use it, and some guy just got vaporized.
I'm with Bones. I'm taking the shuttle.
Take the shuttle, or create portal technology.
Did you notice, when they're trying to figure out how to rescue Sulu and the others stuck on the planet, they never bring up shuttles?
I found that very odd. They went out of their way to make sure that they wrote in a reason why the transporter, the physical stuff wasn't working, even though sending down 2 heaters instead of 1. Was one of those heaters legitimately evil? It sent it down. Come on, work. I want to burn everything. All right, we're not turning on this heater.
What juicy moments do you think the supporting characters get here?
Bones just killed it for me in this episode. Because he was right about the transporter in the first place. He had this good wartime vibe to him. And I think he himself is a vet of some war.
You mean the actor or the character?
I think the actor, but the character for sure.
Really? I don't remember that about Bones' backstory.
I could be making that up because I don't know everything.
But regardless, I love the interplay between him and Spock.
What's the matter with me?
Judging from my observations, Captain, you're rapidly losing the power of decision.
You have a point, Spock?
Yes, always, Doctor. We have here an unusual opportunity to appraise the human mind, or to examine, in Earth terms, the roles of good and evil in a man. His negative side, which you call hostility, lust, violence, and his positive side, which Earth people express as compassion, love, tenderness.
It's the captain's guts you're analyzing. Are you aware of that, Spock?
Yes. And what is it that makes one man an exceptional leader? We see here indications that it is his negative side which makes him strong. That his evil side, if you will, properly controlled and disciplined, is vital to his strength. Your negative side, removed from you, the power of command begins to elude you.
What is your point, Mr. Spock?
If your power of command continues to weaken, you'll soon be unable to function as captain. You must be prepared for that.
You have your intellect, Jim. You can fight with that.
For how long?
When Bad Kirk does try to Harvey Weinstein Yeoman Rand, is that like the worst moment for a captain in any of the shows?
That's a philosophy debate of it's attempted rape versus, I don't know, Picard as Locutus murdered a very large amount of his own crew. Janeway got them stranded. I don't know if that's her fault, but she got them stranded in Delta Quadrant.
She had the chance to get home immediately, and then later she's like, I'll do anything to get back home. Well, obviously not, because you could have in the pilot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the worst captain moment, because it's only half Kirk, so it can only count as half bad. The half worst moment.
Wow. Remind me, if I ever get caught up in weird sci-fi court, I use my defender.
Oh my god, that would have been a great Law and Order type of episode for the show. Captain Kirk, you are stand accused for trying to sexually assault 20 women today. How do you plead? It wasn't me, Your Honor. It was my transporter malfunctioning duplicate.
There's probably like some quick shorthand for that too. Oh, we got a Section 7. Crap.
What was your favorite scene or line?
I liked the ending. And I don't know if it was good writing or they just didn't have the special effects budget for it to be a fist fight. They won due to philosophy.
And it's both Kirks coming to grips, literally.
Dun dun dun.
Coming to grips with each other. And they hug it out.
It's good psychology. He accepted himself.
Or to get meta-literal, Kirk hugged his body double. Who, I feel like they could have found a better double, don't you think?
Yeah, because I feel like he's definitely broader in shoulder by a noticeable amount.
Hair was different when William Shatner is hugging his double on the transporter pad at the end, and you get to just linger on the body double's back. It's nowhere close to being.
That was just some janitor that they grabbed last minute.
My favorite scene was Low T or Low Tiberius Kirk's dilemma when Spock and Bones are arguing how to proceed after reintegrating those dogs and sweaters, and that didn't go well. While his friends go back and forth, Kirk is pained because he can't make a decision either way. It's so unbecoming, it shows how far he's fallen.
Oh, you a character moment, man.
As gross as Bad Kirk obviously is, on the flip side of that, Passive Kirk is also disgusting to me, but in a quieter way. You know, it's like, Jesus, man, you're Captain Kirk. Make a decision.
You pathetic bastard.
When Spock has to remind him that Sulu and the others are still on the planet, he's like, oh yeah, you're right.
I forgot. Let me go man to communications. Sulu definitely needed positive reinforcement in those moments, and sad Kirk was just like, I don't know.
Oh my god, yeah, Kirk gave him nothing in those scenes. It's almost like it was the actors talking to each other.
Yeah, right? Like, I don't want to talk to this gay guy.
Is The Enemy Within missing anything that you think would make it better?
I wanted to say special effects, but people thinking better special effects will make it better have ruined so many movies. So I want to say no.
Well, this classic series, they did go back and added new effects. Does this mean you're a classic effects guy, or do you watch these episodes with the new effects?
I only have access to these new episodes with the new effects. Because they're, just crisping up the Enterprise and stuff. They're not going through and adding new laser fire, are they? I don't think we've seen any phasers go off.
No, as far as I know, they don't add any new details. They just freshen up the visuals. I watched these episodes on Blu-ray, and they give you the option to watch enhanced or original graphics. I go original all the time. Give me those terribly keyed Enterprises against space. Not this episode, but one of the others. I freeze-framed it, and half the nacelle on the Enterprise was missing because it just wasn't keyed properly.
Oh, yeah, it's just disappearing into the background.
Yeah, but I don't mind that. I like the historical aspect of the show. It wasn't made in the HD era. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
This, I think, is my favorite episode of the original series. I love this, but I think Bad Kirk being more conniving would have helped. We see the attempted rape, and that's bad. But once they do the ship-wide manhunt, it would have been nice to see Bad Kirk be more of a threat than simply snarling at people with eyeliner.
He talked to the assistant transporter technician. That was a really funny scene of just like, hey, come here. Okay, give me that. Thank you. And then he tries to make small talk and then just hits him.
Every time he talks to a crewman, he's sweating and he looks strung out on heroin. Why aren't any of these people immediately suspicious of him?
That brings up more questions about normal Kirk. Alright, he's wearing eyeliner. His face is scratched up. He's sweating.
And he's giving me a weird sex look.
Yeah, he's got sex in his eyes and anger in his heart. And no one's asking any questions.
I want to believe all it means is that Kirk likes to take daily runs, and so people see him sweaty a lot, he's breathing heavily. The sex look thing, I can't explain that.
That's just Kirk, baby.
On a good day, they want it. When he's Bad Kirk, then they're like, ew, get away.
Well, yeah, Bad Kirk's there for himself. Good Kirk's there for the other guy.
Good Kirk is going to leverage his sexy look in a charming way. That's the difference between him and Bad Kirk. Off of that, is there anything in this episode that screams the 60s?
Besides the dog outfit, special effects in general. The one female is treated like an object. That's kind of iffy. And I know Uhura had those same issues, and Martin Luther King had to tell her to stay.
Right, yeah, the actress, Nichelle Nichols.
Martin Luther King didn't travel to the future and be like, Uhura, stay on the ship. I know everyone's weird sex maniacs and things go wrong every day, but stay.
For the uninitiated, if you said they went back in time and met Martin Luther King Jr., who's to say that's wrong? So we gotta say that it was the actress, not in the show.
Nichelle Nichols was encouraged to stay on the show by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I can accept most things in this episode related to Yeoman Rand. except for the last exchange between Spock and Rand. You notice how Spock is making fun of her assault?
Yeah.
It's like, well, Rand, I know you almost got raped, but hey, after knowing what happened, it's kind of funny, isn't it? Come on, you do it. You do it.
If I could laugh, we will laugh about this later. I can't laugh. So you have to laugh for both of us.
Why are they trying to give Spock a moment of levity that doesn't involve Bones or Kirk? It just doesn't work, and it comes off as insensitive in a way that is improper. Vulcans, they're not a fountain of emotion, but in this one, he comes off as an asshole.
Bob Farr's coming up. I just made light of rape.
Talking generally about Kirk, how do you think he compares to other captains like Picard and Sisko?
He's such a wild card. Picard is a hard ass by the book. I don't know if Sisko has any policy that he couldn't make it a baseball metaphor.
And I think Sisko has something of a controlled rage. Like, he'll fly off the handle sometimes, won't he?
How many times did he gladly fly the Defiant into we're probably going to die situations? He's like, we're going to war. Come on. O'Brien, you sit up front. I want to watch you die first. He got bloodthirsty towards the end.
Well, he chases after that one security officer that turned out to be a member of the Maquis.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to hunt that dude down. I don't really see Kirk doing that. I don't think he would take it that personally.
Kirk probably didn't care too much about... In the movies, yes, but he didn't seem too upset when any of his crewmen died in the show.
I think this happened in all 3 episodes today. That patented Kirk smile. It's just so damn charming. I think that's what sets him apart from the other captains.
It's just on the right side of smug.
To deep dive for a second, in Star Trek IV, when they put him to trial, it's like out of all the captains, he doesn't get scot-free, they do demote him. It could have been worse, but because they know he's so damn charming, and when he was being sentenced, he gave them that Kirk grin, and they're like, Kirk, we can't stay mad at you.
What was the Deep Space Nine episode where they went back in time to the Troubles with Tribbles episode, and the 2 time agents were talking about they're trying to berate Sisko for breaking the timeline by introducing himself to Kirk. They let it go, but they're like, that guy... He is like the worst offender of time travel, like 90 cases or whatever.
Doesn't Jadzia Dax even make a comment at one point that she's like, damn, that Kirk, he's so hot?
She does. Whoever she was before Curzon knew him too, personally, I think. That was one of the jokes in Deep Space Nine.
Out of all those DS9 characters, she's one of the more sexually liberated beings.
Oh yeah. She's been around a while and she keeps getting hot young bodies.
Do you think they made a mistake by telling Kirk's death story on screen in Generations?
No. We all wanted to see it. I did. I know you did. I think...
Wait, who said I wanted to see him die?
No, I'm not saying it like, I want to see him die. I wanted to see the conclusion of the story, opposed to Undiscovered Country. The end of it was just him casually going back to space dock. That's not how he wanted to go out.
It wasn't the most dramatic ending, but I think Kirk as a character, he's defined more by his actions and his adventures. Inherently, a death story is the conclusion of all those things. And it's just not quite the celebration of the character that I want. So I would have been happy just saying goodbye to him, however old he was in Star Trek VI. What, like 60 or something?
Yeah.
It's enough to know that maybe a sequel would just be him in a space retirement home, a la the Professor in Futurama.
Bad news! No, he would... that's not how Kirk wants to go out. The only reason in the Nexus Kirk agreed to go was the threat of death. I think, hey, I need your help. It'd be super easy, but if you don't help, a lot of people would die. Kirk will be like, I'm gonna stay here. Screw those jerks.
What do you think is Kirk's ultimate character arc? How would you describe his journey using only live-action Trek from '66 to 2005?
his trust in others. You watch the original series, and he's all gung-ho. He's the one who's going to go fistfight the Gorn. Spock, you should probably take charge for a minute. He didn't even give up command then. Going from that to, we'll say, undiscovered country of trusting in Captain Sulu to come and save his ass. His arc is trusting his people.
As much as the Starship Enterprise is associated with the franchise, I think the other crews and the other shows would probably show almost as much loyalty, but for some reason when it comes to Kirk and his crew, I think of it being more about them and their connections to each other. They're more personally involved, and ultimately, yeah, he's command of the ship and he loves the ship, but it's about the people. It's not the ship that makes the crew. As we move into Episode 14, Balance of Terror, where outposts along the neutral zone with the Romulan Star Empire are getting slagged, and it doesn't take long before Kirk and his brain trust realize it's the Romulans testing the Federation's mettle. 100 years earlier, Earth had a war with them, but never saw their faces. Now, as Kirk attempts to destroy the Romulan ship before it can cross back into friendly territory, the crew is further shocked when it's revealed the Romulans look just like Spock.
Bum-bum-bum.
What do you think defines Kirk in this one?
Well, as the episode went on, he started to get more into that war mentality, but I want to talk about his ability to curb the racism as soon as the other crew members saw that they also looked like Vulcans. He did a really good job of, yeah, but they're not. We're going to curb this racism right now.
I understand they needed that guy Styles to be the bigot so that they could put the message in the episode. It's hard for me to swallow. He's just automatically like, oh my god, Spock. You and the Romulans, you guys look like you share elven blood. I hate you now, even though we've been serving together for, at least a year or two by this point.
We've served together for a long time, and no one's seen these people, so I didn't know what they looked like, and the war was 100 years ago, so it's like the people that died in his family, he never even met.
Here's a file, shave down those ears and we can talk again.
Yeah, right? just cut it off.
Do any of the supporting characters get juicy moments here?
The Romulan commander really did a good job. The whole Romulan crew.
My commander sent for Decius.
A message was dispatched. You've broken the rule of silence.
Only in code, Commander. To inform our praetor of this glorious mission.
Your carelessness might have ended this glorious mission. You're reduced 2 steps in rank. Return to post.
Take care, Commander. He has friends, and friends of his kind mean power, and power is danger.
Danger and I are old companions.
We've seen 100 campaigns together, and still I do not understand you.
I think you do. No need to tell you what happens the moment we reach home with proof of the Earthmen's weakness. And we will have proof. The Earth Commander will follow. He must. And when he attacks, we will destroy him. Our gift to the homeland. Another war.
If we are the strong, is this not the signal for war?
Must it always be so? How many comrades have we lost in this way?
Our portion, Commander, is obedience.
Obedience. Duty. Death and more death. Soon even enough for the praetor's taste.
Watching how they bond as a crew versus how the Enterprise bonds as a crew, which is weird because they never got racist at any point, did they?
Well, they're also monocultural.
Yeah, that's true. They're still the bad guys. Screw those jerks.
Talking about juicy moments, the juiciest is a moment where Uhura takes the navigator's seat, and it punctuates 2 things. 1, she can do more than communications. She's a very handy person. And 2, those miniskirts on the classic show made it look like there was a cloth shortage in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
When Nichelle Nichols gets out of her comm chair and goes up front, we can clearly see, or maybe I was just looking really hard, That skirt is not covering anything. It looks like a red napkin draped over a rear bumper.
Yeah, I definitely noticed some keister sticking out.
I'm of two minds. It's like I had my own transporter accident. At the same time, I think it's hot. It's also like, Jesus, come on, guys. Can't we give her a longer skirt?
We gotta do something about this. And then the other side is drunk on brandy, like, yes.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I read that the actress that played Yeoman Rand, she requested that the skirts be very short because she was a dancer and she wanted to show off her legs.
Ooh.
If that's true, she has a mea culpa she has to put out to all the actresses on this original show, because they're all wearing the skimpiest skirts imaginable.
That's very 60s for you. We gotta sex up these ladies. The show is about humanity being better, but also sex up these ladies.
Do you think the characterization of the Romulans is largely here in their first appearance, or are they a race that feels like they were heavily retooled between this and the Next Generation?
I want to say retooled, because I feel like everything we see of them in Next Generation, they're significantly more conniving, whereas this, it tries to make them feel like they're pure warriors, whereas Next Gen makes them spies.
They're pretty sneaky in this. They got the cloaking device.
It reminded me of Wrath of Khan with the whole submarine battle. They can't really see each other. They're just kind of feeling it out and using the world around them.
There's that one part of the chase where they cross into the tail of a comet, and that reminded me of the Mutara Nebula from Star Trek II.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the commentary for that episode. One of the crew members pointed out that in space, they're so far out there, they're not even close to a sun. A comet wouldn't be giving off a tail like that.
Way to ruin the episode there, crewman.
And he was part of the group that helped redo the visual effects. And he said, that's just one of those things. We kept it in there because it's integral to the plot, but the science isn't faithful at all.
Yeah.
I didn't think the two planets of Romulus and Remus were a thing until Nemesis, but they mention Remus here.
They show it on a map. And it's really weird how long it took for them to be like, everyone from Remus is weird bat people because there's no light.
Even though I don't think they did the details very well for Nemesis and how they used the Remans, I do love continuity. How many franchises do callbacks to something that's over 30 years old?
Not enough. I think about this all the time. How many different people have written Star Trek versus one guy wrote Star Wars, and there's more plot holes in Star Wars than there seems to be in Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh, man. Can we both agree Star Trek over Star Wars?
Yes, that's why we're here.
Okay, I'm just checking. We can still be friends.
All right.
Do you think the Romulans were used well throughout the overall franchise? Do you like them more than the Klingons?
Yes and no. I thought they were used really well. I'm going to give them a tie with the Klingons. It's the newer writers' love affair with Klingons and just expanding their culture and everything. It's just been so much fun. But at the same time, the Romulans always felt special because of how little they were used.
Fairly recently, within the last couple of years, I was watching some DS9, and I'm gonna say I like the Klingons more than the Romulans, because, like you said, the Romulans don't show up a lot, but also I almost feel like the stories in DS9 with the Cardassians could have fit the Romulans. Like, I could see Garrick being a Romulan instead of a Cardassian. I've always blurred the lines between those two cultures. They use subterfuge a lot. Is the main difference that the Cardassians are more fascistic? What do you think? What's the difference between Cardassians and Romulans?
I don't know. You're starting to make us sound like space racists. They're all the same, the scaly bastards.
Oh yeah, that too. They are kind of scaly.
Yeah. Romulans felt like they were pretending to not be dickheads, but they still wanted you to know to be a dickhead. Whereas the Cardassians are just a heads up, I'm a dickhead.
Spoonheads.
That's, wow.
They got that little thing, that tag of skin.
In the process was probably made by a spoon of creating it in the special effects prop house.
Probably.
I'm going to get fake offended for these fake races when you say dumb stuff.
And I suppose the Romulans, they're more artists, and the Cardassians feel blunter. In Balance of Terror, what's your favorite scene or line?
I like the way Spock handled Styles. He saved his life, and at the end of the day, Styles was like, I'm sorry, you're right, I was being racist, and he just shut him down. I had no emotion, I had no horse in the race, I was just doing the right thing.
You remember the bridge? If you died, we'd have to replace you, it's easier to save your life.
Yeah, exactly. He's just playing it off emotionally. Meanwhile, the wedding at the beginning of the episode, completely ruined.
What do you think of that subplot?
I liked it, which makes me sound awful, because the husband died. The would-be husband. My wife was in the room. I was going to make a joke about him getting off easy. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy that they make someone up for the episode to kill off, but it still shows stakes to the whole situation.
This is one of those episodes where I think they overdo it with the messaging. War is bad. And that drives it home a little too much. As like, oh look, these two lovers, one of them died. So sad, senseless.
Blah, blah. I know you don't like New Trek, but in Strange New Worlds, they do a what-if version of if Pike was still in charge for this particular incident, and his ass accidentally reignites the whole Romulan war.
Strange New Worlds, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Nope, moving on. We're never getting to that.
Good, that's fine. I like it, but we don't get into it.
Do you think this episode has enough science fiction in it?
Yeah, I think it's got enough. They talk about matching warp speeds or whatever, and then the big old Romulan MacGuffin weapon. They don't have to explain that, while still giving it enough weaknesses.
Under the neutral zone in 1 minute, Captain.
Do we violate the treaty, Captain?
They did, Doctor.
Once inside, they can claim we did. A setup. They want war, we furnish the provocation.
We're still on our side, Captain.
Let's get them while we are. Before we enter the neutral zone. Full ahead, Mr. Sulu. Maximum warp.
Ahead, sir. Excellent.
Lasers, stand by.
Sir, at this distance?
We know their Achilles heel, Mr. Stiles. Their weapon takes all their energy. They must become visible in order to launch it.
And I love whoever came up with the idea that ships can't fire while cloaked. It's genius that it's just such a good loophole of just preventing from getting out of hand for like the rest of the show.
And then what do they do later in Star Trek? A cloaked ship that can fire weapons. It's like, oh, come on. You're missing the point. Don't do that.
That was just a prototype. There's theories that it made everyone on board go insane.
They all got cancer.
They all got cancer. They started quoting Shakespeare. That's the first sign of insanity.
I appreciate that they explain every move in this chess match between captains, but so much of the science and ship tactics is theoretical or just plain nebulous that I feel like you need to set your phaser to suspension of disbelief full power and just go for the ride. Don't try to question any of the science.
It's about the suspense of these two would-be submarine captains, basically. You can't see the other guy. You're going on instruments alone. Instruments and trying to think of, oh, that's what the other guy would do.
Would you do anything to make Balance of Terror better?
No, but I could think of a way to make it worse.
I could think of something right off the bat. The analogy to submarines, they take it too far in this episode. When they disable the Romulan ship, and they see it on the view screen, and all it is the ship tilted. This isn't the ocean. If you disable a ship, it's not going to tilt to one side listlessly. It's going to maintain its orientation. It stopped. That's all.
Or keep going. Because how come every time these ships meet, they're always on the same axis? No one's coming up when they meet another ship going sideways?
It might not be until Wrath of Khan, where Spock points out that Khan is a two-dimensional thinker.
Okay, he's caught up on the technology real quick, but he has no experience in 3D fighting.
And if I remember correctly, you got that beautiful shot, they're in the nebula, and then the Enterprise rises up from below the Reliant.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that movie.
Gonna have to watch that later, because we've got the appropriate setup now.
Which is a good segue when we get into the final episode that we watched for the podcast. But before we do...
No.
Going back to the classic series... What sticks out about it versus Trek post-Abrams?
The willingness to tell a story versus just an overwhelming need to sacrifice things for the sake of visuals. Oh, this shot's going to be cool. I don't need a reason to write that into the script, which is a very Abrams thing to do. And old Trek is just like, maybe we write a story here. Maybe we just tell a good story and understand the basics of the characters.
Like, I've never enjoyed some shot in the 2009 Trek and then realized it made no sense at all, but still liked the shot. It just ruins it for me every time.
It does, yeah, because Trek, the more you think about Star Trek, the better it gets. The more you think about anything Abrams did, the worse it gets. Like, he ruined 2 amazing sci-fi franchises.
Oh my god, John, you have just encapsulated the franchise for me. That is perfect. That should be on every dust jacket for every Star Trek book. The more you think about Trek, the better it gets.
Yeah.
Yes, that is it.
It's supposed to be, it's going back to the Enemy Within. It's supposed to be about humanity solving your problems with a philosophy discussion. And all Abrams wanted was pew-pew shooty.
If someone new is getting into Star Trek, how would you go about putting together a watch list for them? Would you broach the original series?
I would. Come on, I think our tied favorite is Wrath of Khan for the movies.
Oh, yeah.
So you at least have to show them the Khan episode. Who these guys are is so pivotal. Good sci-fi always asks the question of what does it mean to be human? And it's always about Spock at the heart of it. Spock trying to figure out the balance between his cold, calculating Vulcan side and the human side with emotions. I guess he finds emotions every now and then. But you gotta show them Spock. You gotta show them Kirk. You can't just skip over these guys.
Maybe 20 years ago, I would agree with you. But now I feel like for someone in their 20s or 30s today who has no prior Trek experience, I would recommend they watch the show Enterprise and then Deep Space Nine. DS9 because I think it's the smartest, most developed of the franchise. And Enterprise because it establishes the foundation of the lore, and it's the only show to be shot in HD. Again, not going into New Trek. But a long time ago, I may have said start with the 60s show. Yeah, especially after watching these episodes. I liked all of them, but it drove home the fact the original series is for hardcore fans.
You lost because you brought up Enterprise and not Next Generation.
Well, I leave out Next Generation because if we go about the most interesting interpersonal dynamics between characters on the shows, would you say Next Gen?
Yeah.
Really?
That's probably biased, because that was the one, I don't know about you, that's the Star Trek I grew up on. That's the one when I think it started in 89, so I was 6. I was able to watch my way through that. I'm assuming you had Deep Space Nine, right?
No, actually. In its original run, I watched very little DS9 because it was too dark. I didn't appreciate it. And Voyager, I wasn't into that either. My first Trek was Wrath of Khan.
Oh.
I was like 4 years old, too, and I loved it. And it scared the hell out of me with that earworm thing went into Chekhov's ear. It was so gross.
Oh, God. That was so creepy. Yeah, that was creepy.
It's like a horror movie if you think about it.
I remember watching that if I was too into it, but Dad would always, like, put a finger near my ear.
Classic dad humor.
Unadulterated dad humor.
But if we go with what show had the best graphics, I don't think I could say Next Gen. Maybe I would give it best sci-fi plots out of the shows, do you think?
I'd give it that. Graphics-wise, it's just going to be the latest show, right?
And the way they use the graphics, like some of those Dominion War shots in DS9 are pretty cool.
Yeah, because they're overlaying...
like 100 ships together.
Yeah, there's like 100 ships there. Most of them are real models that they shot.
Oh, yeah.
You watch something like Avengers Endgame on the new fancy big TVs, it's just like, okay, yeah, Thanos looks like a giant purple CGI guy.
Oh, so you're saying we should feel sorry for you and your gigantic TV? Oh,
yes.
Poor John, he's seen too much.
Yes, feel for me.
But the last episode we watched today, episode 22, is Space Seed. Discovering a sleeper ship that launched in the 1990s, its captain is revived and revealed to be Khan Noonien Singh, a dictator that ruled a third of Earth during the Eugenics Wars, a conflict between regular humans and test tube supermen like Khan. Superior ability breeds superior ambition, so the rescued augments become the enemy when Khan takes control of the ship, and Kirk must stop the despot's renewed sense of conquest. What do you think of Kirk in this episode?
I like how he stands up. It's kind of weird if everyone forgot about Hitler and then found him in space. They're just like, I'm going to be nice to this guy. Even though when Khan first woke up, he immediately acts like he's in charge. He's like, give me the sit report. Tell me this. Tell me that. Kirk is just so, okay, I don't know who this angry man is, but I'm going to oblige him. He seems to be a good host. I'll say that much for Kirk.
I don't think the way Shatner played it fit the actual episode, the way it was written. Look at Kirk's face when Khan is telling him some BS story about how they ended up out there. I never buy that Kirk believes Khan's story. Even from the jump, I think he's leery of him, and rightly so. But then when you look at details in the episode where they're bending over backwards to be hospitable, the way it's written, Kirk should totally believe everything this guy says, and it doesn't make sense if the captain didn't believe Khan to then give him so much access. Do you think they tell a complete story with Khan?
Well, no, they had to make a sequel movie. No, I don't think they did, because he had all that ambition. He ruled a third of Earth. He got shot into space. Immediately tries to reconquer a place. And now knowing full well he could have a multi-planet empire, he's going to be happy just on the one planet that they, quote-unquote, banished him to? He didn't learn anything. He wasn't done.
It's not a complete story, but I think he is a complete character. There's such a great foundation there. If 60s television was more serialized, he's somebody that would totally have come back in season 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you like about Ricardo Montalban's performance?
He is beefy. He's commanding from the get-go. As soon as he wakes up, he's got all these demands of Kirk, and he's saying it in such a way that it's forceful, but he's not forcing himself. Firm yet fair, I think would be the term. He gets the historian under his wing real fast. She was just horned up for him. As soon as she woke up, she's like, look at them muscles.
Oh my god, that historian character that goes on the little away mission to the sleeper ship and they find Khan in one of the chambers. And they do make it a plot point later on that once she saw Khan, she knew immediately who he was because she's an expert on that time period.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was Captain Kirk, when she says, I don't know who he is, it's like, really? Really? You don't know who this guy is? He ruled a third of the Earth. You're an expert on these things. And once he says his name is Khan, how does Kirk not know who he is?
Right? But Kirk's, I guess, not a historian either. They do keep bringing up the fact, like, a lot of information is lost on the age. But at the same time, it's, all right, if I didn't pay attention in history school, and I unthawed a guy by the name of Adolf.
And he commanded a lot less of the world than a third of it.
I'm suspicious. I'm pretty sure this guy isn't the tramp who stole our hearts in all those silent films.
But this episode gets wholly by on Montalban's performance. That self-assured control. It's tops and so entertaining to watch. And if I were to describe his character, because I know you've watched the show Hannibal, I think in the way that Hannibal Lecter has his code, but is also a psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
I think Khan is a psycho, but he's the regal version of Hannibal.
He's the other Hannibal. He's the elephants across the Alps Hannibal.
Absolutely. Everything he does and says, you know he believes in it. He might have to kill a bunch of people. As long as he does it his way, he's totally in the clear. Same way with Lecter.
Yeah, and he wasn't hiding who he was as much as just not telling.
Besides that historian, do you think any of the supporting characters get juicy moments?
We gotta talk about when Khan held a knife to Dr. McCoy's throat, and all McCoy did was give him medical advice to make it more efficient, opposed to do anything, Khan said.
Yeah, I don't normally think of Leonard McCoy as being a badass, but when Khan holds him by the throat and has a knife, and McCoy says, well, you gonna choke me or you gonna stab me?
Pick one, I ain't got all day.
I can't tell if that's bravado, if he's using some defense mechanism, or do you think he truly is like, dude, if you're gonna do it, do it?
Yeah, I think it was just straight up, he's bored and not afraid of death.
That does fit with his cantankerous nature.
I don't give a crap if I die now. I'm sick of that Vulcan. You'd be doing me a favor, but I also have other things to do, so...
Is there another scene or line that you like?
What is it with Star Trek and having awesome dinner scenes with their tyrannical guests?
Oh, dude, yeah. I never considered that until now.
This Undiscovered Country.
There's got to be a dinner scene in DS9.
Oh, yeah. Just having these guys for dinner, talking about tyranny, and Khan, unprompted, just said, no, I brought those people peace.
Forgive my curiosity, Mr. Khan, but my officers are anxious to know more about your extraordinary journey.
And how you managed to keep it out of the history books.
Adventure, Captain, adventure. There was little else left on Earth.
There was the war to end tyranny. Many considered that a noble effort.
Tyranny, sir? Or an attempt to unify humanity?
Unify, sir. Like a team of animals under one whip.
I know something of those years, remember. It was a time of great dreams, of great aspiration.
Under dozens of petty dictatorships.
One man would have ruled eventually. As Rome under Caesar. Think of its accomplishments.
Then your sympathies were with...
You are an excellent tactician, Captain. You let your second-in-command attack while you sit and watch for weakness.
You have a tendency to express ideas in military terms, Mr. Khan. This is a social occasion.
It has been said that social occasions are only warfare concealed. Many prefer it more honest, more open.
You fled. Why? Were you afraid?
I've never been afraid.
But you left at the very time mankind needed courage.
We offered the world order. We
The music sting happens. You? What do you mean, you?
Yeah, exactly. That was my biggest problem with all these episodes. They had to tell the audience stuff. Later in the episode, when they're banishing Khan, he mentions Milton, who wrote Paradise Lost, and the big line is, better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. Spock had to say the line so the audience knew what they were talking about.
Oh, it was Scotty that asked, right?
Yeah.
A pure Khan moment. Frankly, you are inferior, mentally, physically. And he does it like he's giving a subordinate a performance review. Like, it's, hey fella, it's not your fault. I'm just better than you in every way. Don't take it personally.
My door. Locked from outside, a guard posted.
Unusual treatment for Khan Noonien Singh.
Excellent. You identified me with your computer system, I imagine.
I'd like those answers now. First, the purpose of your star flight.
A new life, a chance to build a world. Other things I doubt you would understand.
Why? Because I'm not a product of controlled genetics?
Captain, although your abilities intrigue me, you are quite honestly inferior. Mentally, physically. In fact, I am surprised how little improvement there has been in human evolution. Oh, there has been technical advancement, but how little man himself has changed.
5 times stronger than you, have superior intellect, which was so inappropriately used in the J.J. Abrams movies.
Hey, man, it's like saying Bloody Mary 3 times. You need to stop saying Abrams.
You're going to show up and be like, what if instead of we told the story, we just point a light directly into the camera?
Yeah, exactly. You say his name 3 times fast, and you get this intense lens flare in your eyes that blinds you.
All of a sudden, your dad was never your dad, even though that makes no sense.
Is there anything you would do to make Space Seed better?
I think I would change the resolution. Khan's supposed to be physically stronger. He still gets beat to death by what looks like a movie theater ketchup pump handle.
Yeah. I don't know how that automatically makes Kirk the victor. He's still using the same amount of force.
Yeah.
That was inadequate against Khan earlier, so I don't get it.
What was that thing made out of? I guess if I take a crowbar and go after some heavyweight professional fighter who could clearly murder me, do I still stand that much of a chance?
The way Shatner was hitting him, it looked more like he was working out a knot in his back.
Yeah, right? He's just like, I gotta help your back. Nah, he should have been swinging for the fences, because that guy, again, Space Hitler.
And why is it he's hitting him in the back? Go for the head. Hit him in the back of the head.
Knock down that superior intellect notch or 2.
I would have Khan get smart to 23rd century tech another way, instead of what we talked about earlier, where he asks Kirk for access and the captain says, sure, Khan, read up. Here, would you like the engineering schematics? There's nothing you could do with these.
Here's everything I got. This is, do you want my self-destruct code while we're at it?
And in other stories where you have a man at a time, something like Demolition Man, I buy it there where the future society is just so unprepared for the viciousness of somebody like Simon Phoenix. But this show doesn't take place exclusively on Earth, so the fact that the Federation exists with these other races out there that are vicious and will take the fight to you anytime, I don't believe that they would be so trusting.
Kirk even says it's named after a penal colony from Australia.
Yeah, there's a clue.
That's a weird thing to know, but not know who Genghis Khan of the past was.
That's also a real writery thing to do, because if I was Khan with my inflated ego, I would not be on a ship called the Botany Bay.
Yeah.
You know, it would be called the King's Ship or something.
Deliverance of Justice.
I'm not going to take a ship out called Alcatraz or the Hindenburg.
Spaceship Titanic. That also ended very poorly.
Is there anything here that screams 60s to you?
Just how the historian was instantly like, "Ooh, hello, muscles. I am no longer a good guy." Like, come on.
On that later scene where he's hurting her wrist and he wants her loyalty and she resists, but she ultimately gives in, would you believe that Thunderball came out within a year or two of this? It's like, we can't get Connery, but we wrote it for him.
Yeah, it was definitely, this is a Connery line.
It's like, ow, you're hurting me, but I like it.
I'm digging it.
Con, just give me one good reason why I should betray my crew. Ow, ow, you're hurting my wrist. Okay, good argument.
Big old space dong.
Hey, in that scene, when she's flip-flopping, he goes, well, just get out of here. After he's already told her he plans on taking the ship. Do you think he would have just let her walk around the ship after that?
Yes, but also I think that he didn't expect her to leave at all.
Oh, he's manipulating?
At the same time, I can see him having the arrogance of, like, one fly in the ointment is not going to stop him. Because she doesn't mean anything to him. Although once she dies, he's willing to murder an entire planet.
Whoa, 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 you're skipping ahead.
My bad.
You're skipping ahead like 20-something years.
Spoiler alert, that doesn't happen in this episode.
She would have been a perfect way for him to get the engineering schematics. Wouldn't that have worked better?
Yeah, much better.
Would have made more sense.
If he was like, I'm going to spend time in her quarters, and she had access to it.
Here we go again, John, writing a better episode.
Our curse.
So this episode tells an alternate history of the 90s. Does Star Trek work more for you if it's supposed to be our future or a future of a different Earth?
I think it works better if it's our future, because it's supposed to be, as a species, we get our shit together. Plus, a lot of sci-fi shows take place for 300 years in the future, and there's no history that happens in between current times and the show. A lot's going to happen.
It might be the cynic in me. It's easier for me to buy that this is a totally different version of our history, that this isn't actually supposed to be our humanity in the future. Because we're talking Trek, and this is a Kirk-focused episode, I want to do some Star Trek Captain Superlatives with you.
Ooh.
Just so we have our ducks in a row. Your candidates are Kirk, Picard, Sisko, Janeway, and Archer.
Okay.
When I ask you these questions, it's not them facing off against each other. It's just them generally dealing with situations. Who do you think would win a fist fight?
That's got to be Kirk. We just saw the Khan episode. He can fight people stronger than him.
But he's got such a clunky two-hander.
Yeah, but that put down Khan, that put down a Gorn.
He's beat up some Klingons.
Beat up Klingons? The only fist fight I've seen Picard in, he gets stabbed immediately.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Sisko, because he punched Q. And yeah, it's not like Q was showing the full extent of his power.
Well, he's the only one who lost control enough to punch Q. But also, Q is an omniscient being, so Q allowed it.
Who do you think is the best critical thinker?
I gotta give that to Picard.
Yeah, I agree. I think of stuff like that episode Darmok, talking to aliens that talk in metaphors.
The translator was useless.
Who do you think is the best diplomat?
That's gotta be Sisko. It's literally his job. Although, you know what? I'm gonna give it to Janeway because every single encounter in the Delta Quadrant was first contact.
Ooh. That's a good argument. I'm gonna go Archer, only going by on-screen canon. They specifically say that at some point Archer is the president of the Federation. That's like the top spot, and he's the only one to get there. Others have been admirals, but he's been the president. Who do you think is the most able to inspire a crew?
Picard. I'm going to cite his crisis management skills. because every time there's a crisis, Kirk doesn't tell anyone the plan. The engineering will come up and be like, I need 3 hours to fix this. Picard will say, you have 1. Sisko will buy them the time. Janeway will buy them more time. And Archer, everything I've seen of him, he's also shoot first, ask questions later.
But Picard, I really liked the series finale, All Good Things. But one part of that I didn't buy was when past Picard, he's just met his crew, Tasha Yar is still alive, and he's acting erratic, and people are concerned, and he gives that speech where it's like, I know one day you guys, we're going to be best friends, and you're the best crew ever, even though we've just met from your standpoint. But trust me, guys, we're so awesome together.
We're the best.
I feel like if I had been on that crew, I would have immediately said, okay, you're relieved of command. Riker, take over. Something's wrong with Picard.
Riker wasn't on the ship yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That was probably the only thing holding that back. It was just like, ooh, we got a riot.
Well, geez, who would have taken command? Worf?
That early in his career? Good for him as a Klingon. No, Tasha Yar was still outranked him at that point.
Oh, right, yeah.
I think it would have been Data.
For being able to inspire a crew, I'm going to say Archer. The whole setup for his show is that they're the lone ship out there. So I imagine he had to motivate them constantly, because really they're on a flying lifeboat in space and nobody's going to help them.
But they were all kind of united in racism, too.
Hey, they had a Vulcan.
That got sexualized every chance they could.
She was a sexy Vulcan. I mean, what you gonna do? Watching these episodes of the original series, man, why couldn't they have had at least 1 or 2 other aliens in the background on the crew?
Yeah.
Are we really existing in a future where humanity and other aliens have joined forces? Because I only see the token Vulcan.
The token Klingon, the token Vulcan again, and 2 more other series.
Who do you think was the most ethical?
Picard, right? Just because the other ones committed space crimes a lot.
Definitely. I think Picard's the guy who will stick to the letter of the law. And he does in multiple episodes. What's that one episode, Pen Pals? Where they're trying to convince him to save a planet full of people.
Oh, yeah, and, Prime Directive, baby.
And he doesn't, right?
No, yeah, I think he lets them all die.
Yeah, that's really sticking to your convictions. When the android, when Data is more sensitive to life and death than Picard is.
It is, because the android isn't French.
Who do you think is most likely to win a starship battle?
I want to say Sisko. He's got all that Dominion War experience.
Absolutely. Yep, that's what I was thinking too. We're simpatico.
All right.
Who's the most book smart?
That's Picard. No contest, baby.
Really? Because I gave it to Janeway. Because in multiple episodes, she's very scientific. That's her background. Picard, isn't he more of a archaeologist?
Yeah, but those are 2 different sets of books, I guess.
And lastly, who do you think's the most charming?
No, we just had a whole episode about Kirk. Come on.
Just checking, just making sure you're paying attention. Is there anything left you'd like to say about our man Kirk in his prime?
Prime Kirk.
He got shirtless in one of these episodes.
He did. I've seen him. I was like, that's such a classic 60s, like, gotta show this handsome shirtless guy.
What a beefcake.
Right? Until Khan came. Khan looked real good.
Oh yeah, Khan, what a thick dude. He had pillows on his chest.
And it was the same pillows from the Wrath of Khan movie. And I'll give it to Shatner about his acting, because there's always a joke about he was being a bad actor on the show. And the whole William Shatner talking like this That never came up. That's just going to be you specifically picking these episodes, but I thought he did a good job as an actor.
You've reached the end of this episode of The Screen Companion. Thank you for listening.